Erev Tov. This week's Parsha of Kitisa begins with the instruction that Moshe Rabbeinu should count the Jewish people, take a census, so to speak, and do so through the process of everyone contributing a machzis a shekel, and then they would count the coins that they had, so to speak, and that would tell them the number of the people. So there's a tradition amongst the Jewish people, even till today, not to count people. We find in Tanakh, for instance, that when Shaul HaMelech took a census for his army, so it says, "Vayifkedeim bat loim." He counted the sheep. In other words, everybody donated a sheep, and then they counted the sheep, so they knew how many soldiers they had. The Gemara also counts as one of the questionable acts of David HaMelech, the fact that he made a census of the people and counted the people directly. I don't know how they count the people here in Israel. I don't know how the Bureau of Statistics works. They never came to me, to my apartment to ask if I wanted to be counted. But I imagine that their system is through public records that they have. That everybody has Tudat Sehut or something like that, and that's how they arrive at a number. But in any event, they're not counting people. Why not? So the simple explanation, which most of the Meforshim deal with, is that there are no two human beings alike. And that when you count, so then you're counting like things. Apples are not oranges. Automobiles are not tractors. Things that are totally different one from another. So you cannot say 1, 2, 3, because it's 1, 1, 1, 1. And since people, the Chazal say, Kishem Shein Partzufeim Domin Zelozeh, since physically we are not alike, we each have a unique DNA, we each have unique fingerprints. Every human being is unique, alone. And the opinions of people are not alike. How people view things. And because of that, therefore, you can't count them in this manner, 1, 2, 3, to arrive at a count. Because they do not resemble each other in their essence. Like, for instance, by animals, where we count for Meiser Behema, in its essence, the sheep is a sheep and the bull is a bull. Naturally, they also perhaps are not exactly the same. But in their essence, that's what they are. Human beings are far different than their essence. And we see that even siblings that are born into the same family, have the same genetic makeup, are raised in the same home. And we all know that they're never alike. The Torah emphasized that to us. In Parshas Yisro, it says that Yisro came and he brought Zipporah, Eshes Moshe, the wife of Moshe, Veshnei Boneha, and their two sons, Asher Shemo Echad Gershom, V'Shemo Echad Eliezer. It should say Hashem Hasheni Eliezer. It says Shnei Boneha, he brought her two sons. So the first son is called Gershom, and the second son is called Eliezer. But the Torah says Shemo Echad, the name of son number one is Gershom, and the name of son number one is Eliezer. Because again, that's the same idea. Gershom is not Eliezer, and Eliezer is not Gershom. And therefore, each one is an echad. Each one is unique, separate unto itself. Now, the Gemara teaches us that by counting people directly, again, referring to the story of David, so that a magefa happened to the Jewish people, God forbid. Somehow there was a plague that beset the Jewish society, a physical plague, with all of the awful consequences that physical plagues bring upon us, as we ourselves have experienced over the last 2 years. So the fact that they were counted is itself a plague. That's what the Chazal say here. The fact that you look at people as a lump, everybody's the same, cogs in a machine, so human beings become replaceable. They don't have any uniqueness. Chazal say that on the pasuk in Chumash Bereishis regarding the building of Migdal Bovel. That the Rashi says the famous idea that if a person fell, so okay, so we got another one to replace him. Because to them, the person and the bricks and everything is the same. So no person is indispensable. Hard to believe, but it's true. But no person is replaceable. That's also true. And since everyone has that uniqueness, so therefore the Torah, to remind us of that idea, that we should appreciate that value. And we should not treat human beings as just, mere cogs in the machine. So we cannot count them together. Therefore, there are different customs, like the count for a minyan. So we count by the posuk, Oshia Samecha. We don't count 1, 2, 3. There are many manifestations of this idea that appear throughout Jewish life. And one of the ideas that the Meforshim point out is that it was a machzis shekel, half a shekel. Why not a whole shekel? Machzis shekel, it's hard to make change. So the Meforshim point out that's what Chazal said, Ein odom niftar min ha'olam v'chatzi tavosu biyodo. Nobody ever left here complete. I did everything I wanted to. I accomplished everything I wanted to. I saw everything I wanted to. That's not our nature. Our nature is that it's only half finished. You're only in the middle. And therefore, when we count human beings through the Machzis HaShekel, the method of counting, what you use itself is a lesson regarding humanity. Many years ago, the Ponevezh Rav Zecher Tzadik Livracha told me, I remember he had a dream that he was going to build 18 yeshivas here in Israel to replace the 18 great yeshivas of Lithuania. So we built 4, I think. The big one in Bnei Brak, there's one in Ashdod, there's one up in the Galil, and there's another one here in the Judean hills. We built the Grodno Yeshiva. So I remember when I was then, we're talking almost 60 years ago. So I was young and foolish. Today I'm old and foolish, but so I said to him, Rebbe, you know, we are having such a difficult time maintaining the yeshiva in Bnei Brak. What do you need a yeshiva in Ashdod for? Why do you have to start to build there? So he said to me with his inimitable twinkle in his eye and a smile, he said, you know, in heaven, they judge us every day. And they judge us, you know, what's he doing today? Well, you know, what's involved? So he said, I'm convinced that if I'm in the middle of a project, and the Malach in heaven will say, leave him alone for a while. He's in the middle yet. But if all my projects are completed, if I'm done, so the Malach says, okay, that's it. So he said, I always have to be in the middle of something. And he told me then that's the idea of the Machzis HaShekel. It's only half a shekel that you accomplished. And another half of the shekel. So if a person has that attitude, so then a person has energy and drive and a dream, no matter what age the person is. And so that is part of the blessing. But it's part of the uniqueness of the person. That is how we look at life. So finally, we have the great story that the Talmud tells us about the elderly man that was planting a tree that would take many, many years for it to come to fruit. So people said to him, you know, you're never going to live to eat from the fruit, then why should you bother? And he said, my forefathers planted for me, and I plant for the future. And that's the attitude of the fact that all human beings are different, and therefore they're not counted the way we count material or wealth. Human beings are unique in every aspect of life, and they're unique, therefore, in the way we count them. Rabbi Chananya ben Akash Omer Rotza HaKadosh Baruch Hu L'Zakos Yisrael L'ficha Chirba Lohem Torah Mitzvot Shenemar Adonai Chafetz Siman Tzidko Yagdil Torah V'Yadir.